13 years ago, on a short bus in a small town in Washington, two idiots met. A bunch of stupid stuff happened. We want you to listen to those stupid stories.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Living with Humor. Today we got a very special guest, Delanie Fischer. Say hi, Delanie.
What's up? Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being on. And I also got my co-host, Brent.
Hey, guys.
But yeah, no, Delanie has been a stand-up comedian. She's also a very successful entrepreneur. But as far as stand-up goes, how did you get into stand-up? Like, what got you started?
Yeah, so I started in college. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and they had this show every Saturday called Laughology. And I had been going there for, since I was a freshman, but I didn't start stand-up until I was a senior. And what happened was one of my best friends basically convinced me to take this like theater class with her as like an easy A, but she left out conveniently that the final for the class would be like performing an original monologue in front of a live audience. And I have terrible stage fright, so I would not have signed up for that shit if I had known what I was getting into. And so I'm like, okay, sounds good. But she kind of saw something in me, I guess, that I wasn't pursuing. And so she thought I needed kind of a nudge. And I got into this class, was absolutely terrified and, not looking forward to it. And when I did this monologue, it was basically like I was doing stand-up. I did a set without really realizing it, where a lot of other people like very dramatic things and like crying on stage and like really cool, powerful stuff. I was telling a bunch of jokes about my parents and dick jokes.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. And so somebody from that audience, I believe, they came up after the show and said, "Hey, you should audition for the Laughology show that we do." And I'm like, I know all about it. And absolutely not. That sounds terrifying. But of course, my friend was like, "We'll be there." So she took me to the open mic where they kind of like weed people out a little bit. And I had a couple shots of tequila before I got up in this like strange restaurant of like 10 people. And I read my jokes off of like an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, just and they liked the jokes. And then 2 weeks later, I was performing in front of 200 of my peers at one of the places on campus. And that's the very start of it. It started with kind of my friend being very like aggressively loving, if you will.
Brock has a very similar story because when I was moving away, and I was like, it's like we've been going to the Tacoma Comedy Club for a long time, and he was like, I kind of want to do this. I kind of want to do this because he'd been watching a lot of Christopher Titus's stuff, and I was like, all right, I'm leaving town. You're going up there. My last time. Just have fun. Go be you. And he went up there and he nailed it, and now we're here.
Wow, that's so cool. Hey, we all need friends like that.
Yes. Yeah, and the whiskey helped me feel comfortable on stage.
Oh, good. For me, it was tequila. I see a pattern here. Good friend and good alcohol. We'll be fine.
Yes.
Be a stand-up. A good friend and a bottle of something.
How long did you do stand-up?
Yeah, I was about 6.5 years total.
Okay. Okay.
So not super long, but long enough to have done some shit.
Yeah. So did you ever like go on the road and stuff, or?
Yeah, I did road stuff here and there. It was a weird thing for me because for me, as much as I loved stand-up, I knew that I didn't want it to be my full-time job. And so I was actually leveraging stand-up to get other opportunities, whether it was acting, writing, producing, that kind of stuff. So I would go strategically to certain festivals or shows to kind of meet people and then kind of follow up about other things or whatever. So I did, I was never like full-time on the road, touring headliner, but I did, I featured and I headlined and, here and there. Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you have any stories that stand out? Or I know I think there's one hotel gig you did, you talked about on Self-Helpless where you met Kelsey and Taylor, right?
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's two of my best friends, Kelsey Cook and Taylor Tomlinson. I met both of them at separate comedy festivals when I was hammered. So it was like the same interaction I met Taylor at like the San Diego Comedy Festival years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I had been drinking and I loved her. I saw her perform. I was like, oh my God, you're incredible. But I was completely hammered. And then I met Kelsey at like the festival that they used to hold in Boise in Idaho. And the Labs Festival or something.
Yeah.
And apparently we met, and I just don't even really remember it because I was like double fisting champagne bottles in the elevator. And when I ended up meeting her later, like months later at like some kind of after party, she's like, oh, we've met. And I'm like, oh, totally. So two of my best friends, their first impression of me was, the sloppy drunk comedian. But yeah, we all were aware of each other, in the industry, and then ended up collaborating, and we just, we all respected each other's comedy. We had a great time, and then that happened. But as far as stories, it's like I feel like every show is attached to a story. It's so hard to narrow it down. But a couple of things that stood out to me was when I went out of town to perform, and they like the management team kind of like or the owner or the manager got everybody, all the comics together, and just kind of went over some ground rules for the weekend and stuff. And they're like, hey, we just got 2 rules here. Like, don't say the C word on stage. And can I swear on this, by the way? I'm assuming so.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Don't say the C word on stage, and don't fuck the staff. That's like the top 2 rules of the club. Everything else will go swimmingly. And before by the time I left that weekend, I had done both things. So that was a fun. One of my bits had, the C word in it, and it crushed. And then I thought one of the bartenders was cute, so I ended up hooking up with him. And everything went fine. Apparently they were pleased, and they were waiting for me to submit my stuff to come back, and I just never followed up because that was never the goal, to like follow up and actually get a set of dates there. But so that's the story. I just broke all the rules, and then I pieced out.
There's just something about bartenders and comedians that for some reason I'm just like, hey, you're cute. Hey, you're cute. Like, I'm a bartender by trade, and a lot of people are like, yeah, you're more attractive on that side of the bar. It's like, if I was just a regular person walking in, you'd be like, I'm not drunk enough for that.
Yeah, no, I was so shameless. Like when I was doing stand up, I mean, I bought a drink. I wrote my number on the freaking receipt with a note like, hey, only here for 2 days. Better hurry up.
You're like, I know what I want. Are you going to give it up is the real question.
I was, good Lord. I mean, I had no idea if he was single or anything. I was just like, wow, I was just absolute trash back then, but I had a fabulous time. I mean, I had a really good time. I made the most of those 6.5 years. And then another story stood out to me. I was driving to a gig, and I was on the freeway, and I accidentally rear-ended somebody. Luckily, it was just like a little tap, but I rear-ended somebody. Felt horrible. We exchanged information. The guy was really cool. Everything seemed fine or whatever. And then that night, he was an audience member at the show.
Oh my God.
I totally called him out. I was like, I fucking hit this guy earlier on the freeway. Oh my God, are you here to arrest me? Like whatever I was doing. And at the end of the show, he was like, hey, listen, we're all good. Don't even worry about calling insurance. Like it was just kind of, so that was an interesting moment too, like seeing the guy that I rear-ended show up like front row.
Oh, that's
not
funny.
knowing that that's who he was there like to see or anything. It was just a happy accident, pun intended. But yeah, there you go. So those are like a couple of things, but there's so many.
That's awesome. So have you ever like do you have like a comedian that was like your favorite to open for?
That's a good question. I only went on the road with a handful of people, but I think my favorite shows honestly were just being able to perform with my friends. Like anytime that I got to be in the green room with, people who were close to me, that was always the most fun for me. Whether it was like we were out of town together or it was just a showcase show, locally or something. But I think the best time I had was like my friend Jordan Pease. I would do some gigs with him. We would travel a little bit. And anytime I just got to see my buddies.
Yeah. No, I can relate. Yeah, I agree with that. I think for me, and this was like a milestone for comedy for me, but I got to open for Titus back in January.
Oh, that's awesome.
I think that's definitely my favorite person I've opened for.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? That reminds me of a story. My very first show at the Comedy Store, I was, they always have really killer lineups, but I was opening for Bobby Lee, and I loved Bobby Lee growing up. I mean, I watched Matt TV religiously, all that stuff. And the fact that I was like 23 or something opening for Bobby Lee, I thought it was the coolest thing. And he came up, after the show, and he told me that I was hilarious and all that. And I just remember thinking, holy shit, this is so surreal that somebody I've been watching and, for such a long time is like not only talking to me, but complimenting me. So anytime those things happen, was very surreal, whether it was like, I got to perform with somebody I admired and they, watched me and said really nice things, or, I got to sleep with somebody I admired. That was a whole nother level of fun. But yeah, it was a mixture of all.
It's like growing up, I always thought you were hot. What are you doing later? All right.
It was one of those things where I was very aware of like, if people knew that I was hooking up with comics, I was worried that I was not going to be taken seriously and I was going to lose like respect. So if I did date somebody who was a headliner, I would be like, don't tell anybody. Like, don't tell anybody about me. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want to be seen with you in public. I don't want to be seen with you in comedy shows. And a lot of them, would say like, hey, you should come open for me on this show or whatever. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, and unless you're giving me that spot, if you would have not given me that spot, otherwise I'm not taking it. So I was very like, I was like going around silencing a bunch of dudes, like, don't talk about this shit, I'll kill you.
It's like, I want your dick. I don't want the opening slot. I want to earn it from my own merits. From everything else going on.
Yes. I'm like, no, people will take that away from me in an instant if they knew like, I was dating and like, because I was getting everything on my own merit and I wanted to say I never wanted to blur those lines, even though a lot of them were like, no, I want to book you because you're funny, and I would book you. I'm like, let's just not.
That's got to be an interesting thing to do, because especially you transition from being, the stand-up comedian to like being an entrepreneur. I'm sure your image at a certain point needed to be a certain way. Can you talk a little bit about that process from transitioning out of stand-up?
Yes. Oh man, it was such a hard decision because like I just love the craft so much. I love writing. I love all of that, but the lifestyle was making me really depressed. I am a homebody. I have stage fright. I like being in my home at night on weekends. I don't like airports. It like nothing matched. And I just realized like, how could I utilize this skill set for something else and still like kind of scratch that itch in a way? So that's when I launched my business, Dicks by Delanie, where I did, hand-painted art. I turned our customers into, funny penis cartoons and stuff like that. And so I feel like that was my way of leveraging all the work I did in the comedy world, but for something that made sense for the lifestyle that I wanted. So it was like, it was my way of kind of being a stay-at-home comedian, if you will. Of like, how can I take this and transition into something? So I was able to use all of my comedy contacts still. I was able to promote. I never had to pay for ads, marketing, all organic, leverage the podcast, leverage those connections. And I knew that the comedy community would be my ideal customer for something like this. So it was a way of like, hey, all the work that you did for 6.5 years was not like a waste of time. You're going to use this to give you momentum somewhere else. And that's exactly what I did. And so that business took off. I was able to, because, I was reliant on stand-up for like part-time income for sure. So I was able to more than replace that. It became my full-time job. And then I scaled that business. We went from a physical product to a digital product for digital dick cartoons. I was managing a team of people. And then from there, organically, I started offering consulting services because people were reaching out for help with their businesses and stuff. So it all like felt organic, but it didn't make any of those decisions any easier of just kind of like leaving, leaving what you had been doing for a long time behind you.
Because especially being a homebody, like transitioning out is not easy. Forcing yourself out of your comfort zone is the last thing you want to do.
Yes, exactly. So I was just forcing myself all the time to do stand-up because, people were really encouraging about it. And I felt bad not to do it because I'm like, so many people want this spot that I have and want these opportunities. And I was beating myself up because I wasn't fully enjoying it or wasn't fully feeling grateful for it. And I had to just stop doing that to myself and say, I can't, I want what I want and that's okay. And somebody else is going to take these spots who loves this shit so much and really wants to be here. And that's the way that it should be.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I remember on your podcast, Self-Helpless, when you told everybody, like, I think I'm going to leave stand-up.
Wow.
I've been listening to it for a while.
Oh, that's cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah, you really kind of know like all the feelings that I was managing years, and it was hard. I just really thought that my life was going to be so boring if I left stand-up. I thought that I'd have no more opportunities ever again. I wouldn't have these like fun things to look forward to because even though I had done other things, whether it was, I got acting jobs, I sold a movie, I did these things, I got in the room for that shit because somebody saw my stand-up. So I'm like, if I take that away, I'm not going to get that type of visibility and opportunities. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So like when you made that transition, did you feel like you kind of like had to start over or was it pretty smooth transition?
It was like a combination of both. So I felt like, I had been marketing myself for a long time as a stand-up. I knew how to book shows. I knew how to produce shows. I knew how to pitch myself to stuff. So that skill set really served me well with my marketing, with my customer service, all of that. So with that, I felt like, oh, cool. I'm not starting over at all. But when it came to like building a business, I was such a noob. I mean, like setting up my business entities and like the legal stuff and the finance stuff. I didn't have to worry about any of that shit as a comic. Getting paid in beer or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was all very new and just learning how to run a business, become profitable quickly, manage a team. That was all like starting from scratch in a way because it was a completely different industry, inventory, shipping, new programs and systems. So it was a wild ride for sure. It was a mix of both.
No, I can bet. And that's interesting. I didn't think it'd be a mix of both. So that's cool to hear. And then, so I got to ask, how did you come up with Dicks by Delanie? Which I have like 3 mugs downstairs.
Oh my God. So actually a happy accident. I went to a holiday party with a bunch of comedians. The comedy world served me so well. I loved it.
Yeah.
But I went to a holiday party and they did like a white elephant or pink elephant gift exchange. They're just like, bring something cheap or dumb or whatever, make something weird. And so I pulled out like a white mug and I drew a bunch of penises on it. I just Sharpied a bunch of colorful penises on this mug. And that's what my gift was for the holiday thing. And as we were playing the game, my dick mug kept getting stolen. It got stolen the most amount of times, whatever, 3 times. And then people were like, who made this? Where is this from? and then that before the party, my buddy JC Karias, hilarious, one of my favorite comedians, he was like, hey, can I just pay you some money to make me a set of these for my house or whatever? And I'm like, okay, sure. I was never going to make one ever again, but I'll make 4 for you, whatever. So that was kind of the birth of that, is like word of mouth. People were like, yeah, Delanie makes these dick mugs. You should kind of get one, just message her, And so I had been doing this Dicks by Delanie thing as like a half-assed hobby for like 3 years before I launched it as a real business, because I kind of looked at like, what do I already have in my space that I could pour energy into that has kind of already been working. I just haven't actually taken it seriously. And that's what I did. I took that hobby and I turned it into like a legitimate operation. And luckily it worked.
Yeah. That's a whole new way of phrasing getting dicks in your inbox. But I mean, by all means.
Dick pics.
But like, why dicks? I know everyone thinks dicks are hilarious, but like, what resonated with you to be like, I need to draw dicks?
Well,
like, it's a whole Cartman episode all over again.
You have 10 hours. No, so the first thing, the reason why I drew the dicks in the first place for the gift is just like, hey, this could be like the ultimate dick joke. I'm going to be around a bunch of comedians, whatever. It's silly. Yeah. And then it was the thing people wanted. I mean, it was really like I was meeting the demand of like, hey, I want a dick mug. I'm like, okay, weird. And then that developed into like, somebody said, could you turn my friend into a dick? Or could you turn me into a dick? Like as a cartoon. I'm like, I can try. I have no idea. So then I started turning people into cartoon penises, you know, dick cartoons is what I call them. And so then it became this thing of like, people could dickify themselves or a loved one or their favorite celebrity or character. And I would turn them into a custom piece of art, but I would come up with like a funny like pun. So like, strawberry shortcake would be strawberry shortcock. You'd have, you know, somebody wanted a Ron Swanson mug that would be Dong Swanson and so on. And so it became this thing of like a cool kind of like creative process with me and my customer. We'd like co-create this piece of art together and it was really fun. But it was all about meeting the demand of what people were asking. It was never like, I'm going to build a dick empire. My first step, I was shocked that this is what people wanted to talk about with me. Like when I would go to friends' houses or I'd be on a podcast or something, they'd be like, okay, whatever, stand up, cool. But like, tell me about this dick stuff that you do. And I just started noticing it was the thing that people were drawn to. It was the like memorable. And I realized I had something early on when that kept being the topic of conversation. It was like, I just performed on TV the other day and you want to talk about my dick mug? I guess. You know? So I started just noticing that and I leveraged the shit out of it. I was strategical with that.
It's like Dicks by Delanie really rolls off the tongue well as well. So it's like, I don't know what people's fascination is with genitalia, but at the same time, it's like, now we need it on mugs. Next thing is just like, all right, I guess. And there was clearly a supply and demand there because, I mean, for 3 years as a hobby is a long time. So you really knew how to curate the market. And you're just like, everyone just keeps sending this shit to me, so I might as well just make money off this.
Yeah,
exactly. I was like, instead of starting a whole new business that I don't have any data around that it's going to work, I can just amplify what's already working and see if it will get me out of this situation and make me a lot happier with my day to day. And I mean, it was such a blast. And I think my friend helped me come up with Dicks by Delanie because I was just like, what do I call what I'm doing? She's like, what about that? I'm like, yeah, that sounds fine. And then as the company grew and stuff, you know, I had this incredible logo designer and he made my logo DVD and it looked like a penis. I don't know if you ever saw that, but it was like a perfect penis for, you know, a mix of capital, you know, letters and lowercase letters. And I was like, oh, this is so perfect. This is great.
Yeah. No, I do remember that. So,
I wonder if, like, at the same point in time, because now you've drawn so many dicks, would that mean you're like hypercritical of like any other dick you've seen? I was like, guys, if you're gonna send dick pics, like you need to make sure it's like fine-tuned to a point. You spent hours preparing everything for the right moment in time. It's like,
I'd be like, why doesn't this one have an outfit and a perfect comb over? Fuck that. Move along. See ya. Oh my god. Yeah. I mean, it was the weirdest situation. I mean, I could have never thought I would be a full-time penis cartoon artist in my life. But I mean, it's like a dream I didn't even know I had that came
It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to draw dicks. No, we don't talk about that. Parent-teacher conference now.
Right. Can you imagine that being your speech at graduation? I'm going to draw dicks as soon as I graduate.
Here's my dickness plan instead of business plan. This is what I'm doing. My 5-year plan. Yeah, it was wild. I mean, it was very like strange, but profitable. I mean, like, I closed down this business and I realized like, wow, if I ever wanted to open up another business in like 2 to 3 weeks time, I could just reopen this at some point. So it gave me this skill set of like, oh, I know exactly how to hire cartoonists. I know how to set this up. I know who to get on my team. I know I know what works. And so I always joke with people like, oh, Dick's by Delanie is going to be my retirement plan. It's going to come back when I'm like 80 years old.
I love it.
This nice, sweet old lady who's cussing at you. Buy fucking Dick's. All right. Yes. Sorry.
Exactly.
I just came over. I wanted to play chess. I didn't want to get yelled at about Dick's. But like Dick's by Delanie kind of probably translated a whole bunch of other things. Like you do coaching now for entrepreneurs, right? What led you to that road?
Yeah. So what had happened is, I left. So I had a corporate entertainment job at the time. I was doing stand-up. Like I was involved in several things. And so when I was able to leave all that stuff because my income was replaced by drawing penises, people were confused, surprised. They were curious about how are you doing that? And so a lot of my performer friends, entrepreneur friends, artist friends started asking me like, how are you making money doing this? Like, are you really like paying your bills and this is your full-time job? I'm like, yeah. And so I started helping people with their businesses or passion projects or whatever by applying what I had learned by trial and error and experience. And I really started to love it. And so what happened was I would talk about it on Self-Helpless too.
Yeah.
Of like, man, I'm really enjoying this. And I want this to be part of like my work in some way to like help other people do their dream business. And we had such a great, like, we have such a great community over there where people started messaging me like, hey, have you ever thought about like becoming a business consultant or like offering that? And like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, I didn't even know what it was, And so I was like, okay, I guess. And so I like shouted out like, hey, I'm just going to try this out. You guys are right. Like I should do it. And, I just started holding kind of like one-off sessions and like, small packages and stuff.
Yeah.
And I fell in love with it. I'm like, oh shit, I actually like this more than running my product-based business. And so it got to a point where both businesses got very busy and very booked. And I had to pick one or the other. And I was like, oh shit, I can't ignore that I like consulting way better because I'm able to use all of my skill set into one person's business, not just running a product-based business where I'm like, okay, I'm approving the dick pics and I'm approving the marketing and all that. Like that's fun. But with somebody's business, I get to use like all the experience from my entertainment career of like pitching people for things and copywriting and negotiations and all that I wasn't getting, that same itch as like more of an advisor role at my other business. So that's how it happened. And I ended up closing down Dick's by Delanie. And then I just did consulting like full time. And that's how I got here. It's been crazy.
You sound like you've had really good friends in your corner because every time it's like, I kind of got this idea, I got this thing working. What do you think? They're like, fuck it, do it. And you've had the go-getter attitude, the right mindset, and you've always been able to put yourself where you want to be. It sounds like there may not have been a written road for you, but you're like, I know how to get to the end. We'll just have a few hiccups, but we'll get there.
Exactly. I totally had a great community, great friends, like people, there was of course a mix of people who did not support any of this and were very confused.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
A lot of like, fear being onto me, but like luckily I didn't listen to that, and I really just like relied on the community that was supportive. And I had never thought like if you told me when I was younger like, oh, you're gonna have a consultancy, you're gonna have a digital business, I'd be like, I don't even know how to work my fucking phone. No way am I digital business. That's not right, so it's really transpired, and like it's all been very organic, and I just kind of allow things to unfold, and then like as woo-woo as it sounds, like my next steps kind of reveal themselves from what's going on, and it's just been one baby step at a time to get to this point.
That's awesome.
Brock, do you have any questions either about coaching, or do you want to kind of see where things go with the podcasting? Because there's a lot of questions there.
Yeah. So do you have like, because you talked about people were kind of like not talking shit, but like everybody has haters when they start a new project. Do you have any advice for people who are starting a new project when it comes to dealing with those types of people? Or
totally. Yeah. I think what really helped me is getting really honest. Like, first of all, how many people are you concerned about? Because a lot of the time where you don't actually write it out and see who it is, you just feel like there's this giant vague number of people who think you suck in your head. You know what I mean? It kind of it just adds this anxiety. And so I started doing that for myself. I'm like, who am I worried about and who's been giving me some pushback? And it was like 3 to 5 people. And I'm like, I'm not going to let 3 to 5 people hold me back from something I want to do. And then I also looked at that and I'm like, would I trade places with any of these people? Are they happy with what they're doing in their day to day? Like, how are they showing up in their life? I'm like, no, I'm not going to trade places with them at all. We don't want the same things. And so that was helpful, actually getting specific about who are you worried about? And then what kind of action step could you take for each person? Whether it's like, you know what, I'm going to hide all my posts on social media from this person only because I don't want them to see my shit right now. I'm not ready for that. Or I'm going to have a conversation with this person, or I'm not going to talk to this person about this specific venture. So that's one. And then another thing is just like, you know, finding community with the people who do think you're awesome and who are supportive and think you're going to be successful, because they are out there and they're doing the same things and they understand you on a whole new level. So whether that is, you know, your podcast community, friends, whether you need to start joining online communities because you don't have anybody in your space, but that is so important to have that support that you might not have. And you might have to put a little effort into creating that for yourself if it's not organically around you.
Yeah. I like that, especially with the action steps. I never thought of that because you're right. Sometimes you just have to hide your shit from people or block people.
Yeah.
So I like that.
It sounds like you found a really good balance between not only being happy with what you're doing, but finding a way to make ends meet. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I'll either make ends meet or I'll be happy. You can't have both. And you found your cake and eat it too. It's really nice to hear.
Yeah, and it's you know, it's a tough dance. You know, not gonna lie, it has not been butterflies and rainbows, but you can do it. You know, you really just gotta leverage like what's in your space. And for me, it was always like easing out of one thing while I was kind of ramping up something else. So like I kept my stand-up work until I did not need it anymore because I had replaced my income, but I stopped promoting my shows. So it was like I was promoting my Dicks by Delanie business, but behind the scenes, I was still making money doing stand-up because I needed the money. But the people knew about this transition, and I was not attracting more stand-up gigs into my space because I didn't want to. So it's like this dance of like, you're kind of, you know, you're rebranding yourself in a way. But you're keeping what you need until you don't need it anymore. And then but I would say like, you know, multiple streams of revenue, especially in the beginning, is super helpful. Like I really, you know, I set up like, okay, there's some podcast revenue, there's some Dicks by Delanie revenue, and, you know, maybe one other thing until that I don't need that. And making sure I felt as secure as possible as an entrepreneur, or entrepreneur is what I call myself.
I like it.
It was always like that dance of like, making sure I was covered in some way. If one project had a weak month, the other one made up for it, and vice versa.
That's awesome. No, that's awesome. So, what the hell was I going to say? So with like you mentioned like the podcast revenue and all that. So you have a couple of great podcasts. You have Self-Helpless and the Aficionado.
Yeah.
So with Self-Helpless, how did you, Kelsey, and Taylor kind of connect and make that happen?
Yeah, so we were actually we were put together by a manager at the time.
Oh, really? Okay.
You guys should all like write a project together. And so we ended up getting together and we wrote a pilot, and we were pitching that a little bit. And while we were kind of like waiting to see like what would transpire with this pilot, we just all realized that we really liked each other. We were having fun. We had a lot in common. And so we were just like, what if we just started a new project together? Like, what about a podcast? And we all had wanted a podcast or had a podcast already. And so, I mean, we talked about it and like 3 days later, we had a podcast, you know, we did all the things we were recording, we branded it, we did all that. And so that happened. And then that became the project that really took off, the thing that was just created from us because out of like, you know, we wanted to, you know, pure joy and, you know, curiosity and excitement. And so that is how Self-Helpless was born. And we were recording like on my, my lunch breaks. I was working at a movie studio at the time. We, record in the conference room. We would record at the kitchen table. Like we did whatever we had to do to like get it off the ground. I mean, at one point we were sharing like 2 mics for 3 people, passing shit around. I mean, it was a mess. But it was really fun. And my gosh, I can't believe we've been doing it for over, 5 years at this point. Of course, Taylor has had to leave the show because of her touring schedule and all that, but it's been around a long time.
Yeah. No, I've been there since the beginning. I love, and this is gonna make me look like a piece of shit. But so when I saw, because I was friends with Kelsey on Facebook.
Yeah.
And fun fact about Kelsey. So growing up, we had a mutual childhood friend, Hannah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So Hannah's mom is actually my mom's best friend. Oh, so like I met Kelsey like back when we were kids.
Okay. Yeah.
So like when I found out she was doing stand up and she was at the first open mic I did. Anyway, I found Self-Helpless and I subscribed because when I read Self-Helpless, me being the sarcastic person I am, I thought you guys were making fun of like the self-help and like the motivation or inspirational stuff.
Oh,
so I was like, oh, they're making fun of it. And then I was like, you guys started out with like the book stuff. It's like, oh no, this is actually really good. I'm learning a lot.
They tricked you. They got you in.
Yeah.
It was like a happy medium of both things. We're like, we are skeptical about a lot of this stuff, but we also know that it works in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so, exactly.
We were bringing that like kind of cynicism of the comedy world into like the woo-woo self-help world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because like I stumbled across it because he'd been mentioning it in passing for years, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll take a look and see what this is. You don't usually recommend a lot of stuff, especially to me. And I was like, okay, there's 3 pretty comedians. I was like, all right, what's the angle here? There's something. There's a draw for him. And I was like, and then you guys just started riffing off one another. I'm like, pretty damn funny. Where the hell have I seen these people before? And I was like, I've watched their stand-ups before. Oh, that's what this is. And I was like, subscribe, sold, and sinker. And I was like, do you have like a favorite episode that's happened thus far? Like a favorite guest that's been on Self-Helpless? Or are you aficionado, either one?
Such a good question. There's been so many. You know what's so, of course, in like true like dark comedy fashion, I think my favorite episodes are usually around death. I get so much out of people talking about near-death experience, almost dying, being like somebody who helps people with, like death care, whatever all that is. I love talking about that shit. And so those have been like really big takeaway kind of episodes for me. I also just love learning about like different mental health, like disorders and things like that I would have never known about that our audience really wants to have experts on about. So like those things are really fascinating, learning how the human brain works and all of that. But man, it's so hard. It's been over 5 years of like incredible guests and experts and, comedians and, trying to think if there's one in particular, but like, I honestly, I get something from every single episode.
Yeah.
I walk away with at least one really great nugget that kind of stays with me,
Yeah.
Because like for this episode, I'm not to try to put you on the spot or anything, but like when we did our initial episode, we had a dream list of guests that we could have on. You were inside Brock's top 10 and you were very, very early on. So I was like,
you were in my top
this
5.
is like one of those big ones we got out.
Oh my God, that's so nice. Thank you. I'm honored. That is so cool. That's so freaking cool. That's I'm happy to be here. Yeah, this is really fun.
Plus now you got to make him blush, so like that's amazing for me. Like as the best friend for like 14 years, like making him blush out of nowhere is like 100% worth it.
On the spot. Let's take a moment.
Well, we're talking about like softer side of things, like as far as advice goes, like do you have any advice for like young entrepreneurs, people in stand-up, or you just have like life in general advice you want to pass on from stuff maybe you've learned through trial and error, be like, hey, maybe this will save you a step?
Yeah, for sure. I think, it's really easy to overcomplicate shit when you are starting a new venture or when you're, scaling your business or whatever it is. And I think it's like getting really clear on what you want versus what you think you should want is always going to serve you well.
Yeah.
Because what you want is the secret to standing out in the marketplace. The things that you actually want to do and not what everybody else is doing just because you think you should. Like, for example, obviously starting a dick business, that was a crazy move. I left social media. I'm completely social media free. I did this because I was listening to my gut with the fear still being present, not realizing that it's actually the things that have drawn people to me. So I would say don't question like again, as cheesy as it sounds, don't question that inner knowing that you have. Stop resisting that. And then keep shit simple. And there's so many ways to do this, but looking back, like looking at what you're already doing and what's working, what's not, what skills you already have, what have you enjoyed doing, and think about how you can package that shit and make some money. I really look back at my career and my life, I guess. It's like, I always loved being a consultant. I always loved that. I was always doing it. I just didn't know you could get paid for that. My favorite part of stand-up was sitting in a green room, talking to comedians about deep shit and funny stories. And it's like, those are the two things I get paid for now. I get paid to talk with my friends about deep shit, funny shit on the podcast. And I get paid to help people with their businesses. And that was always present way early on. And so you already have what you need to make these really great business decisions. You're probably just dismissing it and you don't realize that you can make money with it. So leverage what you have, leverage your skill set, make one simple product or one simple service offer and start serving people with that. Start from there. You don't need all this other fancy shit to get started. You just need to make the thing and deliver the thing and get really good at it. And the rest can be, built upon.
Sounds a lot like me and Brock were part of a business venture a long time ago. We won't name drop because we have a particular episode about it. But one of the nice pieces of advice that we actually got from that was just the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
Like by all means, let's just keep it simple. As long as you can keep it simple for yourself, it's simple for other people, and it's really easy to catch on and latch onto that idea because people like simplicity. They want it in its easiest form that everyone can understand. They don't want the super complicated. Be like, all right, I create this digital piece of art and then I send it to your inbox and like it's a dick. What? It's like, I'm just gonna send you a dick mug. Okay, that's simple. I like that. I can get behind that.
I get it. Yes, exactly. It's like, if it's feeling complicated for you, it's feeling complicated for everybody else.
That's a good point.
And it's like, I used to get in this trap all the time. I would, as creatives, and as you guys know, we're not short of ideas. We got a bazillion ideas every fucking day. So learning how to discern what our ideas are for right now and what needs to just be listed somewhere for later so you can, review those is really important. And instead of like setting a bunch of stuff up and like changing everything all the fucking time, it's like, how can you experiment with that one thing in a very simple, one-off way, collect the information, and build upon that before making it a staple in your business? Like, for example, when I was still in entertainment, I was like, I think I want to be a producer. Let me just create a production company overnight and let's just do that. And so I'm like, let me get the domain name and the logo. And then when we finally did our first shoot, I was like, I hate this. I don't want to do this.
Shut it down.
So if I had started off with like just texting a couple friends saying, hey, can we just shoot this little thing real quick on our phone? Let's see if I like it. And doing that and saying, I actually want to move forward with this. I'm going to just move on to something else. I wish I would have done that first before building upon like, I loved it. Now it's time to get the logo. Now it's time to do this. But I see it all the time and I did that all the time. And now I work oppositely. When I have an idea, I test it out behind the scenes in a very like one-off experiment way before expanding on it and making it like a staple in my business or my life. So Oh, that would have saved me a lot of stress and money. And
no, you hit the nail on the head too, because it is expensive when you dive right in like that. Because like I did that because I produce shows as well as perform.
Yeah.
And I did the exact same thing when I first started. I got the domain name. I paid for a graphic artist to make my logo. Like I did all that. And like I'm still doing it, but yeah, I definitely could have saved a lot of money.
Yeah, it's like we just we think we need so much more than what we actually do, because we already have the most valuable thing, which is the thing that we're about to deliver to somebody. And so, and it doesn't help that like all the messaging is like, you have to have all this stuff. You have to have the perfect packaging and the perfect platform and all the followers, but like really you don't. It's just not true. You have to have a really great product or service, and then you can build upon that, and your reputation will speak for itself. Like for you guys, like make a good podcast, you're going to get a lot of word of mouth, organic marketing, and then you build upon that, and you expand. So I'm just a fan of just people like getting right to work and not getting distracted with the facade of a project or business, but actually doing the real stuff that they actually enjoy and want to be doing.
Right. Right.
Like any way we can find corners that we can cut costs, but do it efficiently and effectively to where it plays off our strengths and the time that we both have available is probably the most beneficial way of us just going about things. Is like there's some things that are super, super easy and super simple. Other times, not so much. It's like you just want to keep it simple.
Absolutely. And it's like, don't be afraid to like reevaluate like every quarter. Like, okay, now that we're here, what needs to be adjusted? Does our format need to change based on, what we want to spend money on? Does this it's ever evolving. And I think I see a lot of people get stuck in their business plan that they made 10 years ago that no longer supports what they want. I'm like, you can change this shit. This is up to you. Like you can do that. You don't work for somebody else. So we are constantly adjusting and refining things in my business because we're constantly keeping up with like the new growth and the new phase and everything. And it doesn't have to be like this thing where everything just is completely different. It's just tiny little adjustments over time that support you with that kind of growth.
Brock, do you have any other questions at this time?
No, we pretty much covered everything. Awesome. I had one, but I've got ADHD and can't remember shit. Which, by the way, is one of my favorite Self-Helpless episodes. But
awesome! Good. Yeah, I want to do so many more episodes around that because, like, I for sure have it. I just haven't. I'm self-diagnosed. I have it for sure. In fact, it's so ridiculous. It's actually been in my calendar. Like, get your ADHD diagnosis, but I keep like not having enough time or forgetting or whatever. Like, oh wow,
I was finally diagnosed like 2 years ago, but which helped. But
right.
Yeah.
Because I got diagnosed really, really early on, but that's because I was a class.
Yeah, you were diagnosed.
I was the irritant one. I was always the one that I've always been like, I had to fidget with something. I needed to have my hands or my feet preoccupied. Before it was the leg bouncing, and now it's like the pen thing. So it's like there's always something I kind of have to be doing just so I can stay functioning. It's like it keeps the brain at bay, so I'm not a total ball of anarchy.
That was such Oh, go ahead, Brock.
No, I was just saying he's always yelling at me because usually I'm clicking my pen during the podcast.
I'm rubbing my legs back and forth right now, and so like I have that same thing too, and I like hitting my leg, is always shaking. It's so interesting because that was a huge eye opener. I did not realize that like a majority, or like what people really think with ADHD is majority of entrepreneurs and creatives have it,
right?
And that being ambitious and like that is hyperactivity, and I'm like, what? Oh my god, this makes so much sense. So much sense. Like I get it. And so it's been a weird thing of like, oh, I have this, but I'm also trying to leverage it to like give myself my dream life. And I'm of course there's pros and cons, but I'm like looking at it, all right, well it's probably the reason I have what I have.
And then we've reached that portion of the episode where it's kind of like, now we've grilled you for about 40, 50 minutes now.
Yes, I love
it. Now you get to ask us anything you want to know. We've had a lot of interesting questions thus far, but by all means, anything top of your mind you want to ask either one of us or just
this is my favorite part of the podcast.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I have a couple of questions, if that's cool.
Yeah.
Number one, I would love to know, like, if you could go back in time and start stand-up. You guys both do stand-up, right?
He doesn't.
No, I do stand-up. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess this is for you, Brock. If you could go back in time and start stand-up new all over again, but knowing what you know now, how would you approach your material and like the business differently, or would you?
Ooh, that's a good question. So I definitely, like when I first started out and during one of our video calls, I think I mentioned this actually, I was really worried about like being a novelty comic. And so that for a few years, that stopped me, really stopped me from like writing material and like performing different material that I knew was funny, but I threw it in that novelty box. And it wasn't until recently, actually, and actually Titus gave me this advice. He told me that it's only novelty if I think it's novelty. And so after having that perspective, that's definitely helped me. So I wish I had that perspective when I first started, for sure. And then another thing I would probably do differently is back when I was doing comedy in the music industry, I would have tried to balance it a lot better, because I was doing comedy in the music industry for like 3.5 years, working with Steppenwolf, and after that contract ended and we kind of parted ways, I definitely felt like I was starting over. So I think I would try to do a better job at balancing the music industry and the comedy industry. Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good advice for, comedians who are tuning into this.
Yeah.
That's really good. Nice. Brent, what's your dealio? What do you do, or what are you passionate about?
What I'm really passionate about is a very, very niche item at the moment in time. I'm very passionate about geek content, and I'm sure you can see like all the like nerdy stuff I have in the background. I'm really passionate about like Star Wars. I'm passionate about Lord of the Rings. Passionate about Marvel, DC, The Boys, that kind of geek content. So it's like I'm really passionate about. I have a podcast with two of my other best friends, Will and Tony, and we do Geek Variants. We just talk about shows that we watch and our opinions on it, how things kind of differ. It's like I'm a bartender by day, but like I try and do as much podcasting stuff as much as possible, because like you said, you want to have as many income producing vehicles as possible. So I want to be able to work as hard as long as I can, because I'm kind of a workaholic. It's like I enjoy long hours. I enjoy long days. I love the grind of getting to where I want to be. So it's like geek content's what I'm very passionate about. I love sports as well, but it's such an oversaturated market, and like every ex-athlete who's ever played a down of like football, baseball, basketball, what have you, they have their own podcast, and because they are famous, it's much easier for them to be like, hey, put me on your show. I'll be the host. I already know what I'm talking about. I already know all the big name connections. Super easy for them to get started. Next thing you know, they go overnight and they're huge.
Right.
But like for someone who's like played sports at a high school level, not the same equivalent. It's like equivalent of being like just an open night or like a stand up versus like being a headliner for years. It's like there's levels to this, and I wasn't there, so it's like Geek Variants is very much something that you can come in at a base level of understanding. And Brock knows I've been a geek for years. A lot of video games, a lot of times were spent just goofing off, just kind of spitballing off each other. We always knew we wanted to do something together in the business venture, but we just could never pinpoint what it was. And then I had him on Geek Variants, and we just connected on mic, and it was like we always had good chemistry, but it's like this is better. Why haven't we done this? And he's like, and then we just spitballed ideas, and that was it.
Okay, cool. Okay, so my question would be for both of you guys then, like, what is the dream job for each of you? And what is the biggest pain point that you're experiencing of like what feels like a big obstacle of getting that right now?
Okay. Ooh, that's a good one. Brent, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
I already have my answer already. My dream job would basically be podcasting about what I'm passionate about. I want to have like an at-home job. I'm very much an introvert. I have to force myself to be extroverted and be out there and be social and do all this and that. Is like I very much enjoy the behind-the-scenes stuff. Like I like editing. I like the promoting. I like being able to get episodes scripted, get things together, get logos made, that sort of stuff. I really enjoy that. So podcasting would be like my ideal thing because I want to be able to bring in enough money to where I can retire my significant other and be like, hey, you do whatever it is you want to do, whether it be you do a job, you do a hobby, whatever the case may be. That's the goal. It's like my significant other, I want them to be comfortable and happy and able to choose what they want to do, not do something that pays them X amount of dollars to make ends meet. Gotcha. I'm fine with working till I drop because I enjoy work, but at the same time, it's not for everybody.
Okay, gotcha. And what do you feel like is like a big pain point or obstacle right now to like have that?
Finding the market and the right people to talk to, getting that level of growth. When you build something organically from the ground up, it's a lot more nitty gritty than I had originally anticipated. But at the same time, I really look forward to those kinds of challenges. It's like, it's literally a giant wall to overcome. And I like learning what works, what doesn't work, how to do it the right way is the main thing. I want to do it as close to my way as possible. I want it to be organic and I don't want it to be forced in any. I don't want to be like, hey, you met this famous person, do this XYZ thing to get growth and get promoted. It's like, I want it to be natural. I want it to be because I earned it and I put in the time and the effort and the energy to make it happen. So getting that organic growth, like I'm sure you're probably getting the traction started in the comedy business, probably not super easy, especially like the first couple times, but after a while, then you see your dividends.
Oh, awesome. Well, it's good. I mean, like, hey, you're running your platform and your business with integrity. You're in good shape, you know? You're going to go well. What about you, Brock?
So dream job, definitely stand up, 100%. But I also really love producing shows too. And like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I do have like my own LLC for producing shows. Cool. And I really like producing, but and I also want to own my own bar. That's the thing.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Kind of like an entertainment venue / bar. And I would say the biggest pain point or obstacle for me is definitely time management is huge with me. I'm definitely pretty bad at that. But other than that, really self-critical and like a perfectionist. So like if I don't think it's perfect, I'm going to obsess over it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get over that. But
a lot of us struggle with that.
Yeah.
Perfectionism big time.
It's good to have that, Brock, but at the same time, it's like at a certain point, it's like sometimes you just gotta fail forward. It's like I put it out there, it is what it is. Let people see what it is, and like time management. Time management is something both of us have to struggle with at a certain point in time. I've gotten a little better, but at the same time, it's nowhere near where it should be if you want to hold yourself to some level of professional integrity. It's like I said I'd be there at 10. It's 10:02. I'm late. It's like my football coach in high school is like to be early is to be on time, to be on time is to be late is to be left. It's like just be early. Is that always put your best foot forward? It's like time management is one of those things like, oh, I was supposed to be there 5 minutes ago. I'm still in bed.
Yeah. Well, what's cool about like what you guys like what the dream is for you guys, it's all very cohesive, not only like individually, but together as a team, which is really cool. Because it's like all your stuff is around podcasting or having a podcast network or working for a podcast network or whatever that is, the editing, the producing, like the being on the show. And then Brock, the fact that you want to own like a bar, produce shows and stand up, all that can happen in one house.
Exactly.
And that's what's nice is because a lot of people are still in a place where they're like, I want to be a pianist and I also want to, be a carpenter. And I don't it's all like, it's gonna be you're gonna have to probably pick a lane and the other stuff for like a hobby. But it's cool that like you guys you're clear on exactly what what you're going for and what you want. And I would say about the multiple streams of revenue, one big shift, and hopefully this is helpful for your listeners too, is like, you know, my multiple streams of revenue came from different industries until I could put them all in one industry. Like I had to like, okay, all right, I got a little bit of stand-up shit coming in. I got some product-based business stuff coming in. I got some podcast stuff coming in. And now the majority of my revenue, like 90%, all of it is within my consultancy. It's like, okay, the one-to-one, the group, the passive. It's like, so multiple streams of income can be like across industries if you're trying to get that one thing really potent and clear. And then you can, you know, divide that up under one umbrella, and it feels so much more, you know, manageable and smooth and cohesive and stuff. So but that's really cool.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time before we decided to work together, because like we've known each other for 14, 15 years. So we've had a lot of time. We know how it works. We know what makes it tick. We know what pisses each other off. So it's like we were able to basically fine tune what it is we wanted and find a way to cohesively sit down, talk about our goals, what we wanted out of this. And if we ultimately didn't agree at the very beginning what we wanted, there wasn't going to be living with humor. It was, we knew what we wanted. We just needed to figure out how we're both going to get to that end result of where we're both perfectly happy with the product. If we're not both happy with the product, why would you continue to do something like this? You know, it's a lot of time, money, and effort, as you for sure know. It's a lot of energy to put into stuff like this. So not to like just take off the way you want to. It can be painful at times, but once you know what the end result is and how to get there, all the grind is worth it. Once you see the end result, like, whew, made it, got it done.
And like those
on our next goal.
Totally, like those check-ins are so important. It's like, okay, is this still serving both of our individual goals and us as a team? And what needs to shift to make sure that remains the same while, you know, serving the community that enjoys tuning in and stuff? It's hey, I know it's a lot to manage, it's a lot to think about, but it's so freaking rewarding to like have that. And my gosh, I would not be where I am, so like very happy and in my career and all that without having a podcast. It was such a game changer, and the community around that just supported all of my pivots, and I was able to like grow very publicly and pivot publicly. But I was always met with a lot of encouragement, and that was like the one constant in, you know, my career has been the podcast, and I've tweaked a bunch of different things along the way. So super, super cool. And obviously very passionate about, you know, what you guys are doing and building for yourself. So congrats.
Is there any other questions you have for us?
I feel like that does it. I feel like I asked you quite a bit. I mean, I could talk all day, as you can see. So you can probably tell when you have a podcaster on the show, like, okay, they can be here for 25 hours.
Some people are definitely more extroverted than others, and other people are like, all right, let's get to the point. I've got things going on, kind of thing. But you're one of those people like you can sit down with it, like, I feel like we've been friends for years, but I just literally met you. And like before the show even started, I was like, you are easily the biggest celebrity I've met. And I was like, you're a regular person, and you're just having a great conversation. It's like, and you just want to help, love, and encourage other people, which is fantastic to see that someone with your level of stature is still like, I'm still just a regular person. I still got to, you know, do everything the same way everyone else does. It's just, I'm happy to lend your time and platform and energy for all the stuff that you do with Self-Helpless, eFishianato. Is there any other projects you have going on that we can plug on our show for you?
You know, that's pretty much it. Like the best way to find me is just DelanieFischer.com. You'll see the podcast there. You'll see like my updated kind of offerings at the time. I also have free resources for both new and established entrepreneurs and online service providers. So just head on over. And, you know, myself and my team like really pride ourselves on high touch support. Like at any level of where you're at, you get a lot of high touch personalized support from us. So that's the goal of the business. Like everybody feels very seen and, you know, gets personalized strategy and all that. So,
Well, that's awesome. We'll definitely include those links in the description below. So,
cool. Well, thank you guys. This was so fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
And we can both say we were exceptionally nervous for today's interview, just because it was like, there were a lot of nervous ticks. Like, is she coming? Is she coming? And then you were prompt on time, and I was like, oh, we were just hella early. That's us. Our bad.
So funny. I told Brett before the show, I'm like, if I'm your biggest celebrity, I feel so bad.
No, but meeting you is like, now I see why everyone holds you in such high regard in the comedy community and as well with the Self-Helpless. So it's like, it's really nice when you meet someone you considered a celebrity and they're just really, really good people on top of it. It's not like there's anything fake or phony to what you're about. It's just, this is who you are. You're organically who you are. You're happy with who you are. There's no facade to what it is Delanie Fischer is about. So that's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that really means so much to me. And, you know, I actually don't usually plug this, but because this is like a comedy related show, I did make a farewell to stand-up special. You can still go to DelanieFischer.com. You can go to my media page and you can click that link. It's called Love at First Cousin. And it's a 30-minute special all about cousin fucking. So enjoy that one. That was my last one for the road.
Well, that's what is that about? All right, Brock, do you want to wrap this sucker on home? I'll throw up our end slide. Thank you again, Delanie, for being on the show. I've been Brent.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, and we'd love to have you again at some point in time down the road just to see things are going the same way you're hoping they go for us and the same way we're hoping it goes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Brock, take it out.
Awesome. That was another great episode of Living with Humor. I am Brock Terrano. We have my co-host, Brent Tomczak, and the amazing guest, Delanie Fischer. Check us out next week.
Thank you, guys.